Grand Rising, I'm Ron Ushia and welcome to show number 18 on Conversation on Art, a show where friends get together to talk about their art, their creative process, their challenges, and hopefully we can inspire each other and learn from each other. I have, as usual, my guest host, textile artist, painter, photographer, Grand Rising Annie.
Grand Rising, Ron. Grand Rising. Thank you for having me again.
And today's guest is singer, songwriter, Saskia. Grand Rising, Saskia.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Saskia, thank you for coming onto the show.
Of course.
And being willing to speak to Annie, myself, and anybody here who's watching. Saskia is 17 and she's a singer. So Saskia, can you tell us, when did you start singing?
Oh, it must have been around probably when I was like, I guess 8, 9, like I did it for fun in school. And then when I properly realized that I could actually sing was when I was around 11 and 12. And then I kind of took it from there. I think so, probably around 11 or 12, I've been properly singing in front of people, definitely since then. Yeah.
Did you get a lot of encouragement from friends and family?
Yes, definitely. I think to start off with, Mum never knew that I could sing until I kind of just got up on stage at school once and sung in front of everyone, and she had no idea. So she was really scared and she was like, oh my gosh, my daughter's getting up in front of everyone, it's going to be terrible, she's going to sing the wrong words and cry and come off stage. And then I sung and she was like, oh, she can actually sing. So Mum's always been encouraging, always, since she found out, and same with friends and family, and especially my secondary school music teachers. They've been they're probably the reason why I have come as far as I have, I think. Definitely my teachers. Yeah.
How important is that encouragement, especially when you're getting started?
The encouragement is definitely one of the most important things, because of course you have to understand that not everyone is going to be as encouraging, and you've got to see past that. You've got to know in yourself, you've got to encourage yourself more than anything, but the encouragement from others surrounding you is very, very important. I don't know if I would be where I am right now if it wasn't for the encouragement that I've got from the outside perspective, because of course you only see certain things from your perspective, but when you have outsiders' views, it does help you gain a better understanding about how you're doing in a particular thing, whether that may be art, whether that may be singing, whether that may be anything, to be honest, anything at all. I think, yeah, encouragement is very, very important. I think it keeps you going. It helps you understand the things that not only that you're doing right, but also that you're doing wrong, because that encouragement can be constructive criticism, and it helps you as a person plan out your next move and correct things that have gone wrong in the past, I think. So yeah, very, very important.
Yeah, I think having that constructive criticism, so you feel free to be able to put your stuff out, and if people come back and comment, it's kind of a great guide, isn't it, when they can point out things to you, and then what you're doing is not really a mistake, you're always learning.
Yeah, exactly, definitely. Yeah.
What did it feel that first time when you were on stage and your mum came to watch you? What was that like?
To be honest, it was kind of a blur, because of how it was the first time I've ever properly sung in front of people on my own, on a stage in front of a hall of people that I didn't know any of them apart from my mum and my granddad, and it was terrifying. And I remember being off stage, just about to go on, and I remember shaking, and I'm not a person who really gets anxious. I'm very confident, I've always been a bit of an extrovert, always loved meeting new people, doing new things. But this one time, I just remember my hands were shaking, I could feel my legs going, and I think it must have been the adrenaline But I remember when I got on stage, I think I just kind of blocked everything out, and I just sort of sung, and I just kind of went with it. I think it was exhilarating, but it made me a little bit anxious because it was like the first time I've ever done anything. But I've always struggled like with being confident about myself. Even though I am a very confident person, self-confidence has been something I've struggled with, and being on stage in front of people after that first time has just helped me a lot, definitely helped me a lot, and I'm a much even more confident person now than I was back then. I think it's definitely helped me improve with that, so yeah.
So is it that you can be a confident person, but still in certain situations doubts can arise?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I am confident in the sense that I love talking to people. I love meeting new people and trying new things. And like if I saw someone like on the street that was wearing like a t-shirt from a TV show that I watched, I would say, "Oh, hey, I watched that too." Like I wouldn't mind striking up a conversation. But when I say self-confidence, I guess maybe with everything going on in the media and how people should be and how people should look and things like that, it's always been, especially being a teenager, it's definitely quite hard looking at yourself and being like, oh, I don't know if I fit that, society standards. But being on being a musician, well, a singer and songwriter, being on stage and meeting so many different people, so many different musicians, like pop artists, classical pianists, um, rock musicians. Everyone looks different. Everyone has a different story. Everyone, like, no one fits the exact society standards. And I think that's helped me become a lot more confident because I've seen that I don't have to be a certain way and I can just be myself. And if I'm myself, then I'm much more authentic. And I think that's me winning at the end of the day, probably. So, yeah.
How does it affect you? I mean, I guess not just you, but I guess all of us when we are projected from these images of what you think you should be, or what you think you should look like, or what they tell you how you should sound or dress.
I think it's definitely very, very hard for every person to like open a magazine or open social media and see so many like pictures of these people that are supposed to be perfect. They're skinny, they're tall. There's men with like they're very muscular, very tall, very what society would claim as handsome. There's women that are very skinny, that are, perfect or whatever, like how people would describe them. And I think it's very hard as a young teenager. You're very, very what's the word? Impressionable. I think that's the word I'm looking for. You're very like you're still growing up and you're still very very naive to believe the first thing that's given to you. And I think things like social media of they're very toxic, um and you can be persuaded to think that that is how people should be. But I read something the other day that one of my friends put up on their Instagram, and they said something along the lines of, that you the trends back from like 2014 and the trends from 2021 are completely different. So you should never change yourself permanently just because society tells you to, because in 3 years time that's not going to be fashionable anymore, and that's not going to be how everyone wants to look, and you're going to be permanently looking like that when everyone's like, oh no, you shouldn't look like that anymore. And me personally, I do think that you should just be authentic to yourself. Just be true to yourself. You shouldn't have to change to conform to society. You should just be who you want to be. And it's a very, very hard thing to do. It's a very hard end goal to reach because of how many people are telling you, because it's not always just society and social media, it's also sometimes your closest friends that are telling you that, oh, I bought this handbag, it's in style, it's in fashion, you should buy it too. Or, oh, I went and I did this to my hair, you should go and get it too, because that's what everyone's doing at the minute. And it can be the people closest to you. And it's just, you have to gain that strength to be able to be yourself. And I think as someone who wants to go into music, that's something that I have to keep in mind as well, because if I ever did gain a following, if I ever did, become someone that everyone knew about or that a lot of people knew about, I would be, well, I mean, there's been people like musicians that have been in the papers, people have called them overweight when they're like skinny, they've called them names, they've been absolutely horrible to them, and you're going to get that in the world. You just kind of have to gain that strength to be able to just shake your head at them and think, no, I'm the person that I want to be, and if I want to change myself, then I'll do that because that's what I want to do, not because everyone else wants me to do it. So yeah, that's my opinion. Sorry, I ramble a lot.
No,
But yeah.
I think he said was so important, and I think it's for anybody of any age at any time. And you said a word, authentic, and Annie and I have spoken of that a lot recently. Just being authentic, being yourself. Have you got any words to say about that, Annie?
I think it's amazing to listen to Saskia because she's so mature in a refreshing way, because she's trying to keep herself, and it's so hard because I can remember being a teenager, and Saskia, I think things haven't changed. I think fashion, and you exactly that, there is that peer pressure of how you should look. And for me growing up, I didn't have perfect skin, and it was flawless, having that perfect skin, the girl with the coloured, the different coloured eyes, having a particular look. And luckily I grew up in the 80s, so it was a bit more freer. So we had the likes of Boy George and, the new romantics. So there wasn't so much of that. But when I was in my 20s, getting into being maybe more of a young adult, the 90s changed a bit more, and it was a lot more American influence of that pressure thing again, and that thing again, and you're so right, some of the closest people to you can be your hardest critics. At that time, being a young in my early 20s, my boyfriend at the time was like, oh, you're a bit fat, and coming from somebody that is supposed to have feelings for you, that's quite hard and harsh to hear that. And it's so difficult to stay centered and grounded. And a lot of my friends had the right look, you're so right in that. And it's wonderful if somebody, when you're young, you're so grounded and you can really keep true to yourself and not be pulled in by the flow of what's happening in the music videos, what's happening in the magazines, because none of it is real. And when you really hear the true stories behind them, I watched a documentary movie on Jean Harlow, and she's an icon from the 50s. Nothing has changed. They need to stay skinny for the studios, the music, in order for music to sell, in order for it to be that wallpaper sort of put together stuff, none of that is real. These people are not real. They're created, and they're made to look that. Even the people that we're seeing in the image cannot maintain that. You see Britney Spears having a breakdown. So many of them artists, actresses, loads of them musicians. A lot of them are on drugs. A lot of them, you don't see that, but you're just seeing the face. And a lot of it is, majority of them are unhappy people, that end up having breakdowns. They end up being recluse, they completely shut themselves off. They end their lives. None of them are you know, very, very, very few of them end up that you can look at and say, wow, yeah, you know,
Yeah.
you've kind of made it, kept yourself, maintained a good relationship, you know, be it with whoever you're with, and have your children. It's, you know, very difficult because it's a machine, and the machine needs to get going because it needs to make money, and that's all it's about. They don't care about you, don't care about me, they don't care about anybody else. They, you know, fashion is, you know, fashion should really be about how you feel about yourself, how you want to express yourself, not,
Definitely.
you know, where we're all looking like clones, which is unfortunately, when I look in the magazine, everybody looks the same.
Mm.
Everybody's
Yeah.
dressing the same, and who, you know, everybody's got the same handbag. You know, don't get me wrong, when I was younger, you know, I did do that. Yeah, you know, you want, you know, you want the right trainers, you want, but as you get older and you kind of fall into more of your own footsteps, and you know, you become a lot more confident with yourself. You know, growing up, I was told I had a big nose, you know, I didn't look right, and you know, my good friend at the time had perfect skin, all the boys fancied her. I wasn't that, you know,
Yeah.
I wasn't that perfect look. But now when you get older, I really don't care, you know, as in, I don't care what people think about if
Yeah.
my nose is too big, or, you know, my stomach is protruding or stuff like that. You know, I think less of that matters and more of being authentic and who you really are, you
Yeah.
know. And I think it's a little bit harder for you guys these days because you have social media. We didn't have that, you
Mm.
know, and everybody's chucking up pictures of themselves that have been edited. None of it's, you know, non-edited. You could, you know, edit everything. So we're looking at touched up photographs like we look at in the magazines, like we look at, you know, in the movies. Everybody, you know, none of these people look the way that we see them. Sorry, that was my little rant, but I really love the way that you're refreshingly quite, you know, this is what I look like. And I think for myself, going to being around creative people, real creative people who you really see, they dress how they want to dress, you know, their hair
Yeah.
is the way they want it to be, you know, they're not wearing a label because it's, you know, it's that way. They're not dressing that way for that way. They're a lot freer, and I find a lot more creative people within the creative arts a lot more in touch with who they are
Yeah.
in that way. Yeah,
Definitely.
so I think for me that was really like a coming home, you know, being around, being in art college, being around like-minded people, you know. I'm not saying you didn't have people, you know, but there was a place for everybody. So if you wanted your hair this way, that was cool. Nobody's going to say anything. If you wanted your hair to be like from the magazines, that was okay, you know. So
Yeah.
that for me was, yeah. So it's really nice to hear you speak like that, Saskia. And yeah, always, you know, keep that. And I think of Adele, she was huge. You know, sorry, I shouldn't say huge. She was larger than, I guess, what maybe the record
Yeah.
companies would wanted to have, but they can't argue with the talent. You know,
Of
you
course.
can't hide that talent. That talent, you know, she surpasses and still surpasses. Yes, I know that she's lost the weight, but I guess she did it in her time
Yeah.
when she wanted to do it, not when rocket producer would probably say, you know what, Adele, you need to shed a few pounds, or
Yeah.
you know what, you
Exactly.
need, you know, it was like, listen, I'm making the money, I'm writing the tunes, and clearly you can see X, Y, and Z. Yeah, so she's done it in her time
Yeah.
and not being pressured, you know, that yes, Saskia, you've got to look this way, otherwise you're not going to get the record sales, you know, you're not going to be blah, blah, blah. That makes me think how empty, that's not an artist. To me,
Exactly.
that's not, that's a puppet.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
yeah, forgive me for my little rant there.
No, everything you've said is just completely right. It's exactly what society's like. I mean, I remember seeing something that's kind of gone a little bit viral recently, is this one video of, I think it's an advert of Kim Kardashian's new like underwear line, and in the video she like runs her finger like down like the side of her body, and as she reaches her hips, her finger, if you look closely, it like completely distorts where they've put effects on it to make her look even slimmer than she is. And it's ridiculous, because it's like, why out of all people, someone who is said to be perfect is still trying to change themselves because of society?
Because she's not perfect. There is,
It's, yeah, exactly.
aesthetically, she,
exactly. It's honestly, it's crazy. It's crazy
and
what people do
it
nowadays.
becomes where, you know,
Yeah, it's just it does, it gets crazy sometimes with how many people, because everyone can do it nowadays. It's not just the big companies, everyone can do it nowadays, and it's scary because you never know. Like, I think it's horrible because people feel the need to change themselves. And I mean, that's why I think I felt that way a lot when I was younger, and I used to buy the shoes that everyone was wearing. I used to dress very similar to all of my close friends. And then I kind of got a bit older. I went through a lot of things at school, and a lot of like bullying and stuff, and I just sort of got to a point where I thought, you know what, I'm not going to let anyone change me
well done.
because they think I should be a certain way. And I mean, the way that I dress is very out there. I have like all of I dress very like kind of gothic sort of. I know I don't look like that way now, but I do all my makeup. I it's not really gothic, but it's like comes under that category. And I dress very much like that. I have these massive like platform boots that have like a platform on the bottom. They're like that big, and like the way that I dress is quite out there and crazy, but it's what makes me feel comfortable. It's how I express myself. And I do hope that at some point people will be able to get to a point where everyone can express themselves how they want and not how everyone wants them to. But yeah, how,
I totally get that. Yeah,
of course. Yeah.
totally.
Saskia, you spoke about when you was in secondary school and the encouragement you got from your teachers. What happened there?
I had these two teachers, and they were my music teachers. They're absolutely amazing. I met them, like, of course, because we had this, like, in secondary, we all, like, from year 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, so 5 years, and we'd have them like once every so often for music, because we had this thing called like this carousel system. So we had drama, dance, and music through 7, 8, and 9. And we do dance one semester, drama another semester, and then music another semester. So for one semester we had them like every week. And that's when I first like properly started to talk to them. And they were the kind of teachers that weren't just your teachers, but they were also in a way your friends, but they knew when to be teachers. They were really amazing, and like they knew so much, and they helped me like through stuff like since I joined the school. And I felt comfortable enough to talk to them about things that I'd been through, like things that I was going through, the type of person that I am, the type of like the fact that I wanted to like go into music. And I joined this little club. They invited me to join this little kind of club that you had to audition for, and it was like a small little choir. And I met some really nice people there, amazing singers, and that's like where I like found my like started to find my voice in a way. And that's when I started to like sing solo and do solos for different performances. We do like Easter performances and summer performances and winter stuff, like Christmas shows. And then when it got to like year 10 and year 11, which is when we get to choose what subjects we do for our GCSEs, so our like, you know, our exams, I chose to do music. And that's when I definitely grew a lot closer to them, and they started like personally helping me like with techniques with my voice, and they taught me how to like they taught me the basics on piano, and then the rest was kind of self-taught. So I'm not always the best, but like I know kind of the basics on piano. And they were there to support me through everything. Like even like when I like fell out with a friend or something, they would always be there to give me advice. Like they weren't just teachers for music, but they were almost like life teachers as well. They just helped me through a lot. And like I have this one video on my phone, not my phone, my mum's phone, from like my last day at secondary before like we had to break, like we broke up in like the March last year because of like the pandemic and everything going on. And because of that, when we broke up, I did this one last performance of me singing When We Were Young by Adele. And in the background you see one of my music teachers, and when I do like this long like high note, like I didn't realize at the time, but when I looked in the back, he just looked at me and he just looked really, really proud. And like that video means so much to me. And of course, like through like 5 years of him teaching me, like I finally kind of got there with my voice. And yeah, it was just, they helped me through a lot, not just musically, but also personally. I think that's why they've been such a big help for me. But yeah, they were amazing.
It's extraordinary, and I guess we're very fortunate as well if we can find teachers or even friends who you can connect with in that way, that can inspire you, encourage you, and just be there for you, whatever you're going through.
Of course, definitely. I mean, I have a very few what I would call close friends that are exactly like that for me, and they help me through everything. They help me with my music, they help me like through personal things. I'm very, very lucky to have the friends and the family that I do have, and the people that I've met. I don't think I'd be the person that I am now if it wasn't for the people that I'd met along the way, definitely. And I'm so happy that I have had a chance to meet them all. So yeah.
And you talked about technique. What do you mean when you say technique and the voice?
I think just very small things, like may they be warm-ups, like vocal warm-ups, or even like I used to, whenever, I mean, I'm really bad because when I sit, I always have like a slouched back, and I used to do it when I was singing. And I've kind of learnt to be a bit more like hold myself more correctly. Like even when you hold a mic, like I always used to hold my mic in the wrong way, and they were like, no, you should point it more upwards and you'll open your vocal cords more because you have your head tilted upwards. Or even things like stage presence, which I've learned a lot more since coming to college. After coming to college, I changed completely. I went from standing still at a mic to moving about on stage and to having that presence there. I've definitely improved a lot with that since I've joined my college. But yeah, just techniques kind of like that, just about how to perform, how to train your voice, how to help your voice a lot more, just small things like that, I think. Yeah.
Okay, could you tell us about, or Annie was asking before about the college where you're at now. What do you do? And I know you study music there, but it's not a arts college, did you say?
No, so the college itself is just a normal college, an average college. They do everything. They do like English, maths, they do beauty courses, they do like travel and tourism, they do, you know, everything that a normal college would do. But they have this one company, and I'm a part of that basically. And this company, they basically do performing arts. So they have I can't think. They have like music tech, they have music performance, which is the course that I am on. They have like an acting course or drama. They have musical theatre. They have dance. I'm not sure if there are any more, but those are like the main ones. And it's just all about music, not music, it's all about the performing arts basically. And that like company works in the college, and I'm a part of that. Of course I'm part of the college as well, but that specifically, and those people focus on the performing arts. So I do music performance, which, like, my end of year exams weren't written as much. They were more me putting on a show, performing, and then, like, to get my final grade, it would have been the performance that I put on for the show, alongside our work. So I don't know if you've ever heard of Wix. It's like a site where it's like you can create your own kind of website, and we have those, and there are little blogs to show our teacher or tutor, and we write on there like our rehearsals, our weekly plans, our weekly evaluations, and like our overall evaluation. We put up videos of our practices and our like final performances, and that, alongside with our actual performances, are what goes towards our final grade. I'm on a level 3 course, so that basically is equivalent to 3 A levels. So I don't do 3 subjects, I just do music performance. And by the time I finish the course, so it's this year and next year, you've got level 3, which is what, like, you have level 3 first year, which is what I've just finished. Then you have the level 3 second years, which is what I'm going on to. And then after that, I can either choose to stay on and do a level 4, which is completely free, or I can go to uni. So personally, I'm looking probably to stay on and do the level 4. They're really good as well. Like, the teachers are all brilliant. I've learned a lot more. Like, I've learned even more things, like how to have that stage presence, and more vocal warm-ups and things like that. I've learned a lot more since coming to my music course, definitely. So yeah, it's average kind of college, but we have that company that works with us. Yeah.
Do you want to come in there, Annie, and ask her something about her course?
Yeah, I was just thinking because Saskia is so young. I think it's so fantastic you've come into it at such a young age, Saskia. Where do you see yourself? What are your goals for your singing? Where would you place yourself? And also, who are your influences? What sort of what singers, songwriters, performers have encouraged you, I guess, been inspirational for you?
I think when it comes to where I see myself, I think definitely doing something to do with music. I can't guarantee that I'm going to get into the music industry, because it's such a hard industry to get into, with everything, like with how many people want to get there, how many that, like, I may not, as I was talking about earlier, I may not fit some kind of standards to someone, so I might not reach where I want to reach exactly. But I want to definitely be doing something to do with music, whether that be teaching other people, whether that be, something really small, like I have a small little group that I'm with and we like do music together, whether I'm a solo artist and I like only have like a few people that know me, and I, perform in, like, whether that be like, I messed up my words then, whether that be me performing in like small bars or pubs, whether that be me performing in like large halls or something. I definitely want to do something to do with music. Personally, I would like to be releasing my own stuff rather than singing covers, because I much prefer singing my own songs that I write. And then when it comes to who I'm influenced by, there's a singer and songwriter called Melanie Martinez. I'm very, very influenced by her. Even like very small things, like I remember when I was about 10, 9 or 10, around that age. It must have been about 10. I saw her like for the first time, this song called Dollhouse, and her music videos and songs are very, I would say you'd have to be more an older age to listen to them, because they're not very like kid friendly. But like her hair, I remember seeing her and her hair was dyed half black and then half a color, which is how I have my hair dyed, and I've always like definitely looked up to her. She always used to get bullied as a kid for having a gap between her two front teeth, and I kind of went through a similar thing because I have a slight gap between my two front teeth. And seeing her like now be like, oh well, that just makes me unique, it's almost made me a bit more comfortable with it. And Melanie looks into things when like through her songs that she sings about things that are going on in the world, that aren't just like, it's not just a song about love or a song about a breakup, it's songs about like how people, like there's this one song called Strawberry Shortcake, I think that's what it's called, and she sings about how women are perceived, how women are supposed to look a certain way, how women are supposed to do certain things and are supposed to be a certain way. Or there's like she brought out a movie called K12 that went hand in hand with her album K12. And this movie she like directed and everything herself, all of them, it's got all of her songs in them, and that's where like her music videos come from for that album. And even like the music video for a song called Drama Club that she made, it's had like how, of course, in like, I mean, I say the olden, like more olden days, I say that, but of course it is still kind of happening. Of course, women were seen as like, oh, women should be in the kitchen, women should be doing this job and that job. And in the music video, it has like the opposite. So like more men are doing those jobs and women are the ones that are more supposed to be in charge or whatever. And she sings, she's done loads of different things. There's also like things like she's touched up on racism, sexism, homophobia and things like that. I love her songs and her music because they have a message behind them. It's not just a song about love, it's a song about self-confidence, or about how you shouldn't take what people throw at you. You should stand up for yourself and for other people that you care about. So I think that's why I love her so much and I idolize her so much. Yeah, definitely.
I think it's when you're a creative person of any kind, you have this place where you have the opportunity to expand and express views, and maybe it can help others. It can move forward other people, different ideas. And I think if you have that platform to use it in a way where you can elevate so many other people and even yourself, I think it's just an incredible thing.
Yeah, I think it's such a fantastic platform, and for it to be utilized, in such a positive and empowering way, very different to, as you were saying earlier, Saskia, about Kim Kardashian. The two are very different, very differing examples. So yeah, how wonderful that somebody else, she would have touched so many people, and they'll look at that and think, yeah, that's, yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
Saskia, you have a verse that you have of one of your songs. Did you write this song yourself?
Yes, I did. It was I don't know why so many people love this song so much that have heard it, because it was for one of the things I did in college, and it was put together in like one night, very last minute kind of, but everyone seemed to really, really like it. And it's called Space in the First Place. And it's I've talked about how I like songs to have a meaning and how I like them to be not just about a breakup or about love. But this song actually is kind of about a breakup, but it's about not just, oh, they don't love me anymore. It's about realizing how someone can be blind to something, but then they open their eyes and they realize the toxicity of the situation. And it's like about how they've come to realize that, like, it's how they've come to realize that the relationship isn't what they thought it was, rather than just, oh, they found someone new. It's about, oh, I didn't realize that this wasn't how relationships are supposed to be. This isn't a good situation, kind of. But yeah, I've got like a verse and a chorus that I can sing if you'd like.
Thank you, that'd be nice.
Yeah, I'll have to do it a cappella. I don't have any piano, but do you want me to just go for it?
Just go for it.
Sure, okay. I didn't know how beautiful the sea could be. It's the color of your eyes that came washing over me. But lately I've been finding that you can be quite frightening. I didn't know how violent the sea could be. 'Cause your lips, they taste like salt water. They may clean the wound, but still they end up hurting. You say that's how I know they're working, but I don't believe a word you say. You just leave me in pain. And I feel like I'm drowning. My thoughts and mind are clouding. I think I need a little space. But when you say I love you, babe, I forget why I wanted space in the first place. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow,
I
fantastic.
love that.
Fantastic.
What a beautiful voice.
Fantastic.
Love it.
Thank you. That
Firstly,
means a lot.
I feel so honoured that you sang for us there. Thank you. I know it's on
That was
Zoom,
lovely.
and I know it's challenging
Yeah.
and difficult.
I feel honoured that you want to hear me sing, so
So,
it goes both
Wow.
ways.
thank you very much. I guess
Thank
that
you.
now gives us the opportunity to go into your songwriting.
Mm.
How do you create the song? Where do you start from? And when you, sorry, three questions at once. When you start a song, do you know where it's going to go?
Never, ever. No, absolutely not. It differs because there are different ways that I write a song. Like if I hate having to, that's why I've never been so sure on that song that I just sung, because it was a song that I knew I had to do. So I had to sit down at my piano and think, I have to write a song. What do I do it about? I had to think about it too much. But when I've done songs in the past, it's always like I'll see an advert or I'll hear someone say a word and something just comes to me and I think, oh, that's that, like, or someone will say a phrase and I think, that's a really good song title, or that's a really good line to have in a song. And I'll write it down. I have like notes on my phone and I'll just write it down and I'll come back to it later. Sometimes I'll just like hum a tune in my head and I think, oh, that's nice. I'll keep that in mind and I'll figure out what it is on the piano and I'll figure out chords. Or sometimes I'll just sit at my piano and start playing something random and it will just come to me. But I never know what I'm going to do. I never plan anything out. It just sort of flows, I think. Like there's been times where I'll start with a random word and then an hour later I'll have an entire song. And then I'll come back to that entire song a week later and I'll change everything. Or I'll take it, I do a little I'm with this kind of studio sort of. And they help me like actually produce these songs that are in my head to actual music. And there's been times where I've gone to this studio with a verse and came out with a song, or I've gone with an entire song and just changed everything. I think when it comes to my music, nothing's ever set in stone. Everything always changes. It's always up for like improvement. It's always up for change because I'm always, I mean, me, myself, I mean, I'm only 17. I'm always changing. I'm always growing. Sometimes I'll write down a lyric, come back to it 6 months later, and I'll think, oh, that was really childish. I want to change that. And like there's songs that I've written like years ago as well, but I always, it's always usually me and my piano. I'll usually sit at my piano and I'll figure out a few chords, and then I sometimes I turn on, like, it's called voice memos on like an iPhone, and I'll put on voice memos, I'll start recording, and I'll have like a 35-minute recording of me just blabbering out nonsense of just random words, random tunes. I'll hum to, like, I'll figure out something on the piano and I'll hum to it, or I'll just like sing some random words, and then I'll like go back over it and I'll think, oh, I like that, and I'll write that down. I think when it comes to me and my songwriting, nothing's ever planned. Everything's always just, it just kind of happens. It sounds so silly saying it just happens, like it comes out of nowhere, but that's like the best way I can explain it. But yeah, so I've always just kind of been like that.
Yeah, I think a lot of creative people do that. I know Annie and I work together. We're working on a project at the moment, and we just throw ideas at each other. And sometimes I might have a picture, a photograph, and I send it to Annie. Annie, this has inspired me in a certain way, or I sent her a song, or I sent her something, and I don't know what's going to come out of it. I have a feeling that something will, but I'm not quite sure.
Yeah. I know what you mean by that. I know exactly what you mean by that. I think that's kind of how I felt about my music in the past. In fact, if I've got my phone here, if I look on here, I will most likely find things that are just random words, or something. Like I have, okay, so here I thought of a random, I was playing a video game, and on this video game you get like different flowers, and there was a tulip. And for some reason in my head, I thought of the one line, tulips in the snow. So here I have written on my phone, I've got tulips in the snow, a song about unrequited love. Then I've got my heart blossomed like tulips in the snow. And then I've got like a list, empty words, heartbreak, like kind of things like that. And that's how I sometimes figure out songs. So I just have little notes about kind of what I want the song to be about, and then I'll just kind of go from there with the tune. There's been like, and then people sometimes have asked in the past that, like, do I write the song first and then figure out the tune, or do I do like the tune of the song first then figure out the words? And I do both. It depends. I think like sometimes I will, if I have a tune in mind, then I'll write the lyrics, but then if I have lyrics in mind, then I'll figure out the lyrics and then I'll put a tune to it. Or sometimes I'll write an entire song in one, like sounding like in a certain way, and then I'll change it to sound completely different. And yeah, it's just sort of, I sort of just kind of flow with it, I think. And I completely understand about being inspired by things. Like I'll look out my window and I'll see like I don't know, a bird, like two birds sitting on my fence, and I'm like, I could write a song about that. It's just like random things. Like I like finding the beautiful things in every day. Like there's beautiful in everything, I think. Like I could look at anything and I could think I could make a song out of that. I could do something with that. I mean, I used to draw, I used to do art back in when I was in secondary school. I did it for my exams. And I used to do that a lot. I used to think, oh, I could do a drawing on that. I could write. I also like writing. I love writing. I like to write stories and stuff in my own time, or I like to write ideas about stories. Not so much anymore really, but I used to do it a lot. And I used to think, oh, like I could write a story about that after I see, like, I might like watch a couple holding hands down the street, and I think I could write something about that. It's just, yeah, I think when it comes to being creative, you just kind of have to look around you and be very open-minded to see different things, because you can get inspired by anything. I think anything at all. Yeah.
I agree. Inspiration is all around us. Absolutely. Yeah. And you're forever collecting information, imagery, words, tunes. It never stops because you're continually seeing things that are gonna, just yeah, be inspirational and think, oh my God, I could do something with that.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely.
Saskia, do you have moments where you may be writing and it just all flows out, and maybe you don't know where it's come from, but it just comes out of you, a verse, a song, and it just comes through?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, sometimes like I'll write a song about an experience. Like I think like a few years ago, I wrote a song, like it was like one of my first ever songs that I wrote, and it was called Heart on My Head. And it was about it was like, because I was just finding my feet when it came to songwriting, and I didn't really write songs with very much meaning behind them or anything. It was just a very simple love song about like this, like it was, yeah, a very simple love song. And I wrote like an experience about being in love and not knowing if to follow my heart and be with them or follow my head and stay away. And I'd never been in a situation like that before. I never ever like had to deal with that before, but I just wrote about it as if it'd been my own experience. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I have no idea where that came from, but I just kind of go with it. Or sometimes I'll write songs. Hang on, I cannot remember what it's called, so I'll just double check on my notes. But I wrote a song called Inner Thoughts, and I had this very like childish crush on this boy. And I remember I sat at my piano and I wrote this whole song about that I like this guy, and I had no idea where it came from. I think it was just like all of the built up emotion, and I just kind of like got it out in that way, and that's how I like expressed myself. That's how I kind of put it down, like pen to paper, wrote everything. And yeah, sometimes I do just sit there and I like just, I don't know, it just kind of comes from nowhere, I guess. Yeah.
I think as well, when you're able to maybe draw, paint, write from, and you can see it from another person's perspective, or maybe you just inhabit that other person, it gives you this kind of empathy with other people, as compassion for other people, just naturally.
Yeah, definitely. I like to write songs and sing songs that I think other people will be able to listen to and think, oh, I've been through that. I understand that. I wanna write songs that aren't just for me, but for everyone. I think whatever experience someone's been through, whether that be being bullied, gaining that confidence to stand up for themselves, or going through a heartbreak, or having a crush on someone, or anything. I want to try and be able to write songs that people feel like they can listen to and relate to, or even songs that people can listen to and think, like if I wrote a song about self-confidence, about believing in yourself and not listening to what anyone else says, I want people to be able to listen to that and think, that's how I want to be. I'm gonna start standing up for myself, because I won't want people to push me around anymore, and things like that. I want people to be, I don't know, I want people to be moved by the songs that I write, not just listen to them and think, oh yeah, that's cool. I guess that's definitely what I think about when I do my songwriting. Definitely.
And also, I guess there are many like painters, songwriters, and what I think is incredible is that you can play their song and you might like the tune and how it sounds and how it feels, but then you can sit back of it. I love what they're saying.
Oh
I
yeah.
think that must be an amazing feeling to to just that that other people are looking at what you've written, and they love what you've written, they love what it means, and that can impact people's lives, because I know that books I've read, art that I've seen, music that I've heard, I've sat down many times and gone through lyrics.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, of course Annie does art and you do writing, am I correct? I'm assuming that like when you guys like sit down to do art or sit down to write, I'm probably, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do assume that you probably look to think, I want people to feel moved by this. I want people to understand this and interpret it in their own way and things like that. I think as like all three of us being creative people, I think that's usually things that we tend to look for. I think being creative, I think that's why I could never see myself doing like sitting behind a desk at an office job. That's just not me. That's just, I could never do anything like that. It's so structured, and I hate things that are structured. I hate having to live like in this routine of get up, eat breakfast, go to work, go for lunch, go back to work, go home, have dinner, go to sleep, and just the cycle repeating for like the rest of my life. It's my worst nightmare. I'd rather just let life kind of just take me where it wants to take me. And I've always been like that. And I think as like all three of us being creative people, I think we can all agree on the sense that we like to just go with the flow rather than get stuck in this structure of life. But yeah,
I think it's like the word you used earlier is authentic. If it comes honestly through you, authentically through you, then it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. It's a success. You've been honest, you've been true, you've been authentic, and you have expressed yourself. What greater thing is there to do?
Honestly, I mean, definitely. As long as you're true to yourself, I think that's the main thing that matters. I mean, if you don't mind me asking a question, for both of you, what kinds of things like do you both look for, like when you sit down to create something? What's the main, like, how do you start with that? Like, what's the main thing that I'm trying to think of how to word it. Like, do you think more about the audience that you're reaching first, or do you think more about what you want to produce first? Like, do you just go with it, or
Well, I'll go first, okay, Annie?
You do.
So it's totally how I feel and what's coming out in the moment. I guess I've been influenced by so many things and people that I've seen around the world and things that I've done. And I have a passion for certain things. I have a passion for living this life. And what comes out of me, that's it really. And I feel that if it comes out of me authentically and honestly, and I'm being truthful, then it has to affect other people because I'm being true. And I think that's what connects people with anything. I think it's the feeling that when you do something, if you do it truly, honestly, then even if one person likes it, I think that's extraordinary. I think that's amazing. Yeah. Of course, you would like it maybe for other people to read it, but I guess when it goes out there, it's nothing to do with you. You pull it out there. You've done your best. You put your heart into it. You put your passion in it, and you've done your best.
Yeah.
And that's really as far as I go. I don't really look outside of what other people are going to think.
Yeah, I get that completely.
Annie?
Yeah, I agree with you, Ron, and we've had a similar sort of a question and a smaller discussion on it a few conversations ago, and it's the same thing. Honesty, just being, what strikes you, what comes up when I do something. It's what I'm the first person to see it, so I want to like what I've produced. And I love when I produce something, I think, wow, I did that. That's amazing. And it's a super bonus if, like Ron said, if one person says, wow, Annie, I really like that. That's really cool. But I've got to, first and foremost, I want to like what I produce. I want to feel pleased and, exactly that I've expressed and, and taken a thought, an idea through to fruition, and I love if you do it on paper, then thinking, wow, you know what, I can do more with that. And as you said, Saskia, you can put something down and come back to it and think, oh, yeah, I could change that. Nothing's ever finished in that way because it can continually be tweaked. What I did 6 months ago, it could be something I've worked on that I did a year ago. You come back and you think, or you see the naivety in it, you know, or wow, I can see the progression. Yeah, totally. And it's always a bonus if somebody else likes it, of course. But I think for me, first and foremost, I want to please myself. I want to say, I did that.
Absolutely.
And this is maybe to both of you. I think sometimes when you've done something and it comes out and you read it, you reread it, or you replay it or re-sing it, and you've done it, yes, I think sometimes there's this tingle and you really love what you've done.
Oh yeah.
You've loved what you've done, and that's an amazing feeling, you know. It's there, and you know, you make sure a few friends, but the feeling of doing it, there's something actually in the creating of it when you just really enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
Can you speak about that, please, Saskia, if that has happened with you?
Oh, definitely. I mean, one of like my more recent songs that I've written, I think I felt that it's something I've never done before. It was like more of like, because I always focus on more acoustic things. Recently I've started like writing songs that are more in the style that I would like, so more dark pop styles, and my most recent song I've written is in a very like punk rock style. And like I've never written in that style before, but it's my favorite style of music. And I remember like listening to it like being played back to me like when I like recorded things at the studio, and I was just like so proud of myself. And it was honestly, it's a feeling that I could never do it, completely describe. It was just like I was like, wow, I did that. I can't believe I did that. But like it felt amazing. And just whilst I'm talking, something that I just thought of after Annie was speaking was when it comes to going back to things that like you've like done like a year ago or 2 years ago, like finished projects. I think like at the start I would like listen to a song I wrote like years ago and think, oh my gosh, it's so bad compared to what I'm doing now, or oh gosh, that was awful, why did I do that? But looking back at it, I think you should never be ashamed or disappointed in what you did before, because that past you must have been so proud. You must have been so proud of yourself for completing that art, that song, that piece of written work. And I think it even if it's not as good as what you're producing right now, it shows that distinct progress.
Absolutely.
And it's like it's almost like it's a journey. I think when you do things like when you're learning to create things, it's definitely a journey, because it's not just something that happens overnight. You don't find your own voice overnight or find your own style in things of how you write or how you produce art. It's something that is very gradual. And to look back at something that I did 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and then compare it to now, sometimes it makes me even more proud of myself that I've come such a long way from where I started. And I think if anyone is learning to do something, even if you look at something now and you think, oh, I could do so much better, don't give up right now, because you have no idea where you'll be in a year or two. You have no idea how much you'll improve, or if you might start drawing in one art style and then a few years later you draw more realistically or even more in like a cartoon style, or you might start singing songs and writing songs in an acoustic way like I did, and then you'll begin to write songs or like produce songs that are more punk rock, which is like in the style that I wanted to do. Or you might start writing like love stories, and then you'll end up writing things about crime and about investigations and thrillers. It's all about the journey. I think you shouldn't give up too quickly. You should never feel disappointed in yourself either. You should always be proud of things that you've done, because whether it's good or bad, or however you look at it, you still did it, you still put your time and effort into it, and you still got an amazing finished product. So I think that's how I look at things like that, definitely.
I think that's a fantastic way to put it, because you look back and absolutely that, you know, that you can look back and say, wow, I'm actually here now, but that's where I've come from, and the journey that I've made from there to there. You know, I've just started doing portraits, and when I've looked at the ones I started with to what I could produce, I was like, wow, I've come a long way. You know, so totally, I absolutely agree, Saskia. You know, you can see, and another thing I was taught was never throw anything away. You know, nothing is wrong, or, you know, it might not be aesthetically pleasing as something else, but again, exactly that shows your progression, shows your journey, you know, it shows your growth from where you started to, you know, to where you are now. And then, you know, there'll be another point that where you are now will be, you know, the past, and you'll look back at that and you'll see the growth of what you've done from there to, you know, so yeah, absolutely. So I totally absolutely agree, just stick at it. You know, it's always stick at it, because, you know, nothing happens overnight. Everything needs practice. Even if you're, you know, you've got the most amazing abilities, it can always be you know, practiced and tweaked and, you know, made better.
Yeah, definitely. And sorry that I'm kind of butting in, I feel bad, but just what you said again has like kind of reminded me of something. And I'm just thinking to myself now, and I'm like, everyone always, like, when you have like maybe an art piece or whatever, everyone always says, oh, practice makes perfect, practice makes perfect. But to be perfectly honest, I don't think it really does, because practice helps you improve. But what is perfect? What is, when it comes to singing and songwriting, what is perfect? Like, because every song is different, no song is the same. Every song that anyone has ever written is different, completely different, different genres, different lyrics, different format, because you can have different structures when songwriting. It can go verse, chorus, verse, chorus. It can go a chorus, then a verse, then a bridge, then a chorus. It's always different. So what is perfect? And again, with art, like, I know in the past I used to draw in a certain way, and I used to be very self-conscious about it, because I'd look at my friends' drawings and I think, oh my gosh, they're so much better than mine. But I think I look back at it now and I'm like, my drawing was perfectly fine. My drawing was really good. It's just different. I don't think there is a perfect when it comes to things that are creative, because it's it's not, everyone's very different people from different backgrounds, different stories, different upbringing, and different end goals in life. I think practice makes improvement, it doesn't make perfect, definitely, speaking from personal experience.
Your perfect is going to be different to mine, or
Exactly.
Somebody listens to something and, you know, they think, wow, that's wonderful. Somebody else might think, oh God, no. So absolutely, and that is, you know, the beauty of where we're at, you know, because you can be appeal to anybody and everything at any time.
Definitely.
You know, exactly that. You're just open to it. You know, you're constantly changing. You're constantly improving. You know, in that way, and you know that's what it is. You know, not everybody's gonna think that's good or that's not good, but I think the most important thing is that you think it is, that you think it is, and that you know, recognize where you're at, where you've been, you know, where you're going to. So yeah, totally.
Of
Absolutely.
course.
Yeah.
I think I learned this phrase by this philosopher, Neely Fuller, and it's become a kind of benchmark in this life. It is, I'm still learning.
Yeah.
If you come with that, with every single thing, I'm still learning, I'm still learning. Then also you're able to keep that element of play and joy with what you're doing. And that way you don't get caught down by judgments of right, wrong, good, bad, left, right, or comparisons. And because every single minute you're still learning. This show we've had today, I've learned a lot.
Of course, same here. I've learned a lot off of you as well. and you both talking to me, and like even some of the questions that you've asked me have helped me learn, because it makes me think about new things I've never thought about before. So I completely agree with that. Definitely.
And coming together, I think this kind of thing, like last week, I'll give you an example. We had a singer on who sings flamenco 2 weeks ago. You remember Angela, Annie?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Amazing.
Angela inspired a piece of artwork that Annie and I were working on. It was a flamenco dancer.
Yeah.
So, and that's the joy of these things. And if we can approach our own work with this and collaborative work with, I'm still learning. I can learn off that 2-year-old. I can learn off that 85-year-old man. I can learn off that 35-year-old woman. I can learn off that person from Venezuela. Then it just keeps you open and fresh to life and experience, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely, I agree.
The conversations are like little windows into people's lives, and it's so lovely because you see that we're not different. We're all, some of us is going through the same things. It's amazing when you have the conversation, think, wow, I didn't think anybody else was going through that, or or you listen to somebody and they're like, oh wow, that's a fantastic way of looking at something, and it really inspires you to go back and, as Juan said, with the flamenco, it inspired a piece of work. It's really nice to hear where other people are, what are they doing, how are they doing. It's like, yeah, I could probably try some of that, or yeah, that's fantastic. So it's always a positive. Yeah.
So Saskia, one last thing. So where are you going from here? Have you got anything planned? Are you writing at the moment musically?
I'm still writing. I'm always writing music. I mean, maybe it's a bit slow at the minute because I've not really had any inspiration like that has kind of hit me out of, like, it's not really had much inspiration recently, but once I get that inspiration, I'll be writing. I'm always looking out for things. And as for where I plan to go from here, I think I want to improve even more next year when I go back to my college course. I want to learn off of other people. I want to work with some new people that I've never worked with before. I wanna try and improve vocally. I want to maybe hit higher notes that I wasn't able to hit before. And yeah, and with like my studio and stuff, I wanna get back to the studio. I want to start recording some new things. I want to start looking to releasing them and putting them out. Yeah, I want to start moving forward, moving somewhere, improving, always improving. Yeah.
Saskia, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak with you.
It's been lovely speaking with you both as well. Thank you so much for having me.
It's been just refreshing to hear you speak, and yeah. So again, thank you very much, and thank you again as well, Annie.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, well, oh yeah, so Saskia, hopefully we can have you back in a year or so to see where you are then.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That would be cool. Yeah.
Okay, well, this has been Ran Usha Conversation on Art with Saskia. Thank you very much and goodbye.